it seems to me that misalignment of incentives between all the different parts of the system in terms of what should we be focused on, which is improving outcomes for patients, is the key issue. Of those, perhaps the one that stands out most is fee-for-service. The fact that still 75% of payment within the system to providers here is fee-for-service, and whether simply moving to something that rewarded much more clearly on outcomes than on activity, that might be a first change. But honestly, the complexity I know is such that any one change is unlikely to make a significant difference. But I really do think understanding how incentives align towards what we should all be focused on, which is better outcomes for patients.
I do think the biggest area of improvement is alignment. That right now our systems in almost every country still operate in a structure where there is one alignment for whoever is paying, there's another alignment for the patient, there's another set of incentives or alignment building phenomenon for the providers. And until we really bring those things together, it's going to be very difficult to have a true system. And just to give you an example, we know that the most expensive aspect of care is hospitalization. But in a lot of countries, hospitals mean jobs. So we don't go after that piece of the equation because there's a misalignment between the economic interests of the community or the government and what is actually driving the increase in GDP going into healthcare. That's a misalignment. And until we can really correct that, I don't think we're truly going to have an efficient health system.
I believe firmly that value to patients ultimately will drive value to all other stakeholders, including our shareholders, including our parent company, and so on. But I recognize that's a bumpy journey. So yes, sometimes doing the right thing is in conflict with the short-term priorities to generate money. But what I always say is, if you start with a framework that says value to the patient is somehow in opposition to our broader sense of value and what we're trying to do, you're starting from the wrong place.
The patient is one area where patient-centricity could be a really important force of alignment. And I feel optimistic because I think increasingly in this consumer environment, in this environment where we can't afford to do what we've been doing, we are going to see a convergence around how do we really improve value for the patient. So that's my source of optimism. It's going to take a long time to get there. There are going to be winners and losers in that process, I fear. But at the same time, we need an external forcing function, and I think really defining patients as our primary purpose will really help us take the next steps.